Hi, I want to welcome you to the See the Country, See the World with the Girl Scout Destinations Program webinar. I'm sorry that we're starting a few minutes late. My name is Lesley Robinson, and I am the Director of Program Services for Girl Scouts of Eastern South Carolina. I work out of the North Charleston office, and I've worked for Girl Scouts for almost 12 years, and for the past 8 years, I've been the point of contact in our Council for Destinations. Girl Scouts of Eastern South Carolina has worked with Holbrook Travel, which is based in Florida, to host destinations to Hawaii, Guatemala, Iceland 2 times, Fiji, the Galapagos Islands, and Kenya. In 2015, we will be taking girls to South Africa. I chaperoned all of these trips except Fiji and the Galapagos Islands. Just a couple bits of information about our webinar today. All participants are in listen-only mode. If you have a question, please type it in the question box, which is in your control panel. I don't have a question moderator, so I'll be taking breaks during the webinar to answer questions. If I don't get all the questions answered during the webinar, I will get back to you through email. This webinar is also being recorded, and we'll get it posted on our website so people can view it at their leisure. So our agenda for our webinar today, we're going to talk about what is a destination, who can go on a destination, experiences from girls who have attended destinations, who runs destination trips, what types of destination trips are available, what trips are taking place in 2015, understanding the trip descriptions, how much do destinations cost, the application process and timeline, and then we'll see if there's any questions at the end. So what is a destination? It's a trip for individual girls from across the nation and globe. It is your chance to go somewhere new, do something different, and meet people from everywhere you can imagine. Trips last from 4 days to over 2 weeks in length, and all the trips have adult guides and chaperones. Each year, Girl Scouts of Eastern South Carolina has between 2 to 8 girls participate in the Destinations program. This past summer, we had 5 girls travel through the Destinations program, and 2 of them are on our webinar tonight and will be talking about their experiences later on. Who can go on destinations? Destinations are trips designed for girls ages 11 to 18. Since traveling is progressive, there are fewer options for younger girls than there are for older girls. This year, there are 2 trips available for 11-year-olds, 4 trips available for 12-year-olds, 12 trips available for 13-year-olds, 24 trips available for 14-year-olds, 35 trips available for 15-year-olds, 34 trips available if you're 16 to 18. Girls apply to destinations as individuals. It's not a troop activity, and parents do not go with their daughters on destinations. And you have to be a registered girl member of Girl Scouts of Eastern South Carolina to apply for a destination. As I mentioned, we have 3 panelists joining us today who are girls from Girl Scouts of Eastern South Carolina who attended Destinations in the summer of 2014. I want to welcome Mac and Kiera to our webinar today. Meredith was going to be with us as well, but she's not here. So we are going to first hear from Mac about her destination. Are you there, Mac?
Hi.
All right, go ahead.
Well, as she said, I'm Mac. I went to the destination where you go up to Minnesota and you canoe, or you learn like important details of how to canoe and like survival techniques. Where then afterwards, after we went to the basing camp in Minnesota, we went to Canada for 9 days, and that was a lot of fun. It was a 10-day trip total, 9 days in Canada, 1 day in the Boundary Waters where the Boy Scouts normally have their experience. When we would canoe throughout our day, we had to go through portages, and which are like unmapped territories where there is a lake on the other side, and we needed to portage all of our stuff across. So we would all have to take our at least 100-pound packs on ourselves, and either some of us would take 2 packs if needed, and then other people would take the canoes, and that was really difficult, especially since we're in hiking boots and it had been mostly raining the entire time. But it was a lot of fun. What I most enjoyed about it was I had the chance to carry the canoe. Even the first time I did it, I actually I fell, but afterwards I had the chance to do it again, and I did a whole 100 rods, which rods are 16 feet, which is like basically the entire length of a canoe, 100 rod portage, and I didn't put the canoe down once, and I didn't have to trade off, and that was really a big accomplishment for me, since I was very scared afterwards the first time I did it. I learned that with a lot of perseverance, I can overcome a lot of things. We would paddle about 10 miles a day, and that was very painful on the arms and with the portaging. So like I was very sore, but like looking back on it now, I am so surprised that I was able to do all that, and it makes me feel like a better person knowing that I could do all that, and it was just amazing, and I would never want to forget that trip in my life. If you would like to go onto a destination, definitely find one of your interests. I love canoeing. I've canoed for about 5 years of my life, and when I first saw this destination, I did everything I could possibly do to get accepted into it. I was so stoked when I got my acceptance letter. So just find things that interest you. You'll have like best times of your life, I guarantee.
All right, thanks, Mac. Next we have Kiera. Kiera?
Yes. Hi, I'm Kiera, as Ms. Lesley has told you, and I went to Space Camp, well, Space Academy. On this trip, we went on a shuttle mission and a lunar mission. We learned a lot about famous astronauts and space missions. We even got to meet famous astronaut Sue Gibson. He was in space for a total of 36.5 days. On this trip, I learned a lot about teamwork, leadership, communication skills, and how to be led as part of a team. we also learned that we could have a lot of fun in a stressful situation. While I was on the trip, I learned that I'm very good at calming people down in stressful situations, and that tolerance is an important part of every situation, and you can't get upset with someone if they mess up. My most enjoyable experience from this was definitely being the pilot on the shuttle mission, and I think it will stay with me forever. My advice for someone who wants to go on a destination trip is to be interested in what trip you want to go on, and be ready to write a lot about your trip and to have a good time.
All right, Kiera, thank you so much. And then Meredith was going to join us today, but she is not with us. But Meredith went to the Midwest Madness destination, which is in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And that trip really focuses on seeing some of the local attractions in that area. They go to the Mall of America. They went to the Wisconsin State Fair. Midwest Madness tends to be one of the largest destinations. There's usually, over 50 girls who are on that destination trip. So at this point, I'm going to see if there's any questions in the question box to answer. And there is one. How are destinations chosen? I think that I will get to that further on in the webinar, and if I don't, then I'll circle around and answer that closer to the end. But I think that this kind of talks about the answer to that question of how are destinations chosen. And this is who runs trips. Trips are ran by really 3 different sources. The first one is Girl Scout councils. This year, 9 different Girl Scout councils are running destination trips. And these councils tend to spend 1 to 2 years planning the trip. And it tends to be a trip that kind of highlights their area. One that comes to my mind is a trip that's taking place in Boston, Massachusetts, and it's being ran by the Council of Eastern Massachusetts. And it's all about everything that the Boston area has to offer. And when councils host destinations, the destinations are staffed by either staff members and then volunteers from that council. So those are the adults who participate in council-ran destination trips. There's also destinations that are ran through a combination of a Girl Scout council and a travel service. And there are 2 councils this year who are sponsoring trips like this. And actually, Girl Scouts of Eastern South Carolina is one of those councils. As I mentioned before, we're going to be taking girls to South Africa. And we work with a company called Holbrook Travel, which is in Florida. And Holbrook's responsibility in the trip is basically lining up transportation, accommodations, our meals, and our in-country guides and drivers. Well, the council's responsibility is for selecting the girls who are going to go on the trip, communicating with the girls and families throughout the process, making sure that they have packing lists, making sure that if they have questions and concerns that those get answered. And also the responsibility of the council is finding the chaperones for that trip. And then the trips are fully guided by the travel services staff. So they're really the experts on where the trip is going, where the chaperones are there to ensure, safety and that the girls are having a good time. Another travel company that is working with the council this year is EF Travel, and you may have heard of them. They do lots of school travel, and they also do lots of Girl Scout troop travel. Lots of troops choose EF to help them go on trips, whether it's to Arcabania or Pax Lodge or things like that. The third main group that run trips are travel services. And this year there's actually 27 trips, 27 destination trips that are going to be offered through travel services. And as you see on the screen, there are 5 main travel services that offer trips. The first one is being Alpine Travel Services. And basically, they're in business to take people on trips. And they have a big division of their company that just works with Girl Scout destinations. There's also the Teton Science Schools, No Barriers Youth, and Costa Rica Rainforest Outward Bound School. And then the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. They do the space camp trips. Destinations that are ran by travel services are fully ran by that service. The service selects the girls who are attending. They communicate throughout the process with the girls and their families, and they're the ones who chaperone and guide the trip. All of the travel services that work with the Destinations program, they're all vetted by GSUSA. They all have to follow safety activity checkpoints in their activities. So they all run very professional trips. What types of destination trips are available? There are 6 main types of trips. And some of the trips fall into multiple categories. So the first category we're going to talk about is domestic. This year, there are 20 trips that are domestic, meaning they're inside the United States or the United States territories. And there's 14 different states where trips are going. There are trips to Georgia, Texas, Minnesota, Arizona, New Mexico, Massachusetts, Oregon, California, Utah, Wyoming, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Washington, Alabama, and Florida. On the international side of trips, these are trips that go visit a different country other than the United States. There are 18 trips, and they're visiting 14 different countries, they being South Africa, Spain, Mexico, Curacao, Grand Cayman, Peru, Morocco, Chile, Scotland, Costa Rica, Germany, Panama, China, and Ireland. The outdoors section, there are 24 trips that could either be domestic or international that focus on the outdoors. And these trips might include hiking, adventure courses, water activities such as scuba diving or snorkeling or canoeing, kayaking. They might involve backpacking and having the girls camp in tents like at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Those are the outdoor type trips. For the people trips, there are 5 of those this year, and those trips are very much focused on people, culture, and community service. In the STEM realm, there are 4 trips, and the focus of those trips are STEM activities, being science, technology, engineering, or math. And then apprenticeships. That's where the focus of the trip is learning career skills, such as firefighting, filmmaking, photography, or becoming an astronaut. There are 6 trips that focus on apprenticeships this year. So now we're going to take a quick look at the different destinations which are being offered this year. As you can see from the screen, the website is http://forgirls.girlscouts.org/travel/take-a-trip/destinations. You can also Google Girl Scout destinations and you'll be able to find the page from there. But this is the main homepage for destinations. And as you can see, right here where I'm pointing, if you hit all, that shows all the trips that are available. If you hit 11, that shows the trips that are available for 11-year-olds, then 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 to 18. So that's a way to sort the trips by age. You can also sort the trips by apprenticeships, domestic trips, international trips, outdoor trips, trips that focus on people, and trips that focus on STEM. Right now, we're showing all the trips, and as you can see, each trip has its own little box containing some information about it. The title, like right now what we're looking at, is Happy Trails. It gives the location and it gives the date. And then over here, it gives like a one-liner about what that trip's about. So as you can see, we have trips this year that focus on horseback riding, learning how to surf, the North Country Rock and Wilderness. That's the trip that Mac took that involved canoeing in the Boundary Waters. Cape Town Exploration, that is our South Africa trip that Girl Scouts of Eastern South Carolina is hosting this upcoming year. Camp Fury, that is where girls learn how to be a firefighter and what it takes to be a firefighter. High Adventure Art in the Land of Enchantment, that's in New Mexico and focuses on photography and art and culture and adventure. Canyon Odyssey, visiting the Grand Canyon. There's a trip to Spain. Another surfing trip, this one off the coast of Florida. A trip to Arcabana. Whales, Tales, and Trails. There's that trip to Boston that I mentioned earlier. If you're into theater, there's a great trip to the Ashland Shakespeare Festival in Oregon. Here's another Southern California surfing trip. If you're into dolphins and learning more about them, there's the Curacao Dolphin Experience. You can learn how to scuba dive in the Grand Cayman Islands. You can visit Moab, Utah and participate in some extreme adventure sports. Wyoming Wildlife Wonders, that's all about the different wildlife that is in Wyoming. Leadership in the Andes at Peru. Visiting Morocco. There's a tall ship sailing experience trip to the Virgin Islands. visiting Patagonia, adventure at the bottom of the world, traveling to southern Chile, a walking adventure through Scotland, another trip that focuses on photography, which is in California. For all those girls who love sea turtles, there's a sea turtle trip to Costa Rica. Heading off to Germany. Then there's a scuba and sea turtle adventure trip that takes place in Panama. A trip up to Alaska. The Great Panda Adventure, where the girls actually have the opportunity to work with pandas and to learn about conservation of pandas. A multi-sport adventure trip to Ireland. Rainforest reefs and rivers, that is exploring the tropical landscapes of Costa Rica. San Juan Islands kayaking, that's heading up to Washington State and kayaking in and around the San Juan Islands. Caribbean land and sea adventure, that's down in Puerto Rico. You can go out to Hollywood and learn about filmmaking in the Hollywood Dreaming destination. Another surfing destination in Costa Rica. The Channel Island Adventure Expedition, that takes place on Santa Cruz Island off the coast of California. And the Channel Islands are sometimes referred to as the Galapagoses of North America. Costa Rica and Panama Service Challenge, that's a trip for girls who want to provide community service. They'll earn over 55 hours of community service during their trip. And then we have Advanced Space Academy and Space Academy, and that's where girls go to Alabama and learn about what it takes to become an astronaut. So as you can see, there are 38 trips being offered this summer, and there are a lot of different interests, that girls have, that there's really kind of a trip for everyone. So now we're going to take a look at the trip descriptions and understanding what they mean. And we're going to use the South Africa trip description as an example. First, I have to get back to it. So here is the Cape Town Exploration trip page. And you get to the trip page by hitting the arrow off of the main page. So we have Cape Town Exploration, and this trip is about the nature, culture, and community service in South Africa. And it's for 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-olds. It's an international trip, and its focus is people. There's two pictures that show you what, Cape Town looks like. And then there is the About the Trip. And in the About the Trip section, that basically gives a general overview of what the girls are going to be doing on the trip. The Where You Go section, that shows the girls on a map where they're going to be going on their trip. The What to Know section gives girls information on specific skills, certifications, interest criteria, or physical/health required for the trip. It's really important to pay close attention to the What to Know section because there might be something in there that says girls need to be comfortable in the ocean and know how to swim. So if a trip interests you, but you don't feel comfortable in the ocean and you don't know how to swim, that might not be the best trip for you to go. And by reviewing that what to know section, that really tells you some of the things you have to be prepared for on the trip. So taking a look at our South Africa trip, to be a successful member of this trip, you should be between the ages of 15 and 18 years old at the time of the trip. You have to be able to fly 12 plus hours in a plane, because that's how long it takes to get from New York to South Africa. You have to be able to hike on rocky and uneven ground. You have to be able to live and work with a group and to cooperate and help in preparing meals and cleaning duties, because that's part of the trip, is going to be preparing meals and cleaning up after ourselves. And you have to be flexible, open-minded, and able to embrace a different culture, because the culture in South Africa is different than the culture in South Carolina. So really pay attention to that what to know section of the trip description. Then you'll see next the dates. And I'm the one who prepared this description, and I was really specific about what we'd be doing each day. So the general dates of the trip is June 22nd to July 2nd, 2015. And then I show what we're going to be doing each day on the trip. So the first day we're traveling to New York. The second day is basically all travel to Cape Town. We arrive in Cape Town on the third day, and then we're in Cape Town for 2 days, Cedarburg for 4 days, and then back to Cape Town, and then traveling back to New York, and we arrive home on day 11. Not all of the date descriptions and trips are this detailed, but I really wanted to show the parents and the families and the girls how long we'd actually be in South Africa, because you see there's really 4 days of travel, and I wanted to make sure that they knew that. Then there's the what to bring section of the trip. This is going to list anything special that you need to have for the trip. For example, if you're going horseback riding, you probably need to bring your own boots. It might say you have to have a pair of broken-in hiking boots. You don't want to have new hiking boots if you're going to be hiking in the Grand Canyon. You want to have boots that are comfortable and broken in. For the South Africa trip, we provide a packing list to all the girls who are going on the trip. And they will need a passport because it's an international trip, so we want families to know that. There's no visas that are required for South Africa, so that's why that doesn't show there. But for some international trips, it might say that you have to make sure that you have your passport and a visa to visit whatever country you're going to. The next part of the description is the cost. Make sure to read this section very carefully as well. The price listed is the program fee for the trip. For example, for the girls participating on a South Africa trip, girls must pay the costs associated with traveling from their home to New York City. But the cost from traveling from New York City to Cape Town is included in this program fee. And that's shown, like, program fee includes round-trip airfare from New York. Girls must book their own transportation from New York, from their houses to New York. Most of the international trips ran by Alpine Travel Services, or ATS, do not include the transportation to the country you're visiting. For example, the program fee for the Giant Panda adventure trip is $3,600, but that does not include flights from your home to San Francisco and then the flight from San Francisco to China. So just be very mindful and pay close attention to what it reads in the cost. As you can see here from the South Africa trip, the program fee has been reduced by $900 per girl thanks to a generous grant from the Juliet Low World Friendship Fund. Each girl accepted will receive the $900 scholarship and will pay $4,600. This trip is costing $5,500, but the program fee is only $4,600 because of that financial aid that the girls have received. The next section is the sponsored by. This trip is sponsored by Girl Scouts of Eastern South Carolina, and it's organized by Holbrook Travel in Gainesville, Florida. So again, if you wanted to find out more information about Holbrook Travel, the website's right there. And the contact information is the last part of the description of the trip. And here, if girls have questions about this trip, my contact information is right there for them to give me a call, either them or their parents, and I can answer questions that they might have about the trip. One last thing that I did not show, because we're going to be getting to it later on, is the application forms. You can download the application forms for destinations off of every trip's page. The application is the same for all trips. So we'll circle back to that in a couple minutes when we talk about applying for the destinations. So here are the slides. We went through this on the description. We were just looking at the about the trip, where you go, what to know, the dates, and then what to bring, the cost, sponsored by, and contact information. So next, how much do destinations cost? Well, program fees range from $500 to over $4,600, plus your travel expenses, at least from your home to wherever the meeting place for the trip is. GSUSA offers financial aid to help girls from our council attend destination events. Every year we apply for a DPAS grant from GSUSA. This year we're going to be able to apply for up to $4,000 total to help our girls travel on destinations. Girls can also do money earning projects, and when girls apply to destinations and when they get selected to participate, I contact them and I'm basically the point of contact for any money earning trip or money earning projects the girls might want to do to help fund their destinations. Some trips offer scholarships through the Juliet Low World Friendship Fund, the South Africa trip being one of those, and that money is already taken off that program fee. There's also the Elliott Wildlife Values Project funding, and they offer funding for girls who go on certain destinations. If a girl goes on the Wyoming Wildlife Wonders destination, they receive a $400 scholarship to go on that trip. So instead of $975, that program fee is $575. And if girls choose to go to the Channel Islands Adventure Trip, San Juan Islands Kayaking, the Great Panda Adventure, Curacao Dolphin Experience, or scuba and sea turtle adventure trips, they have the opportunity to apply for $500 worth of financial aid through the Elliott Wildlife Values Project funding. And there's information about that in the cost section of the program description. Assistance may also be available through the travel service sponsoring the trip. Alpine Training Services, ATS, offers financial aid, and you would contact them directly for more information about that financial aid. And again, in the cost section of the description, it tells you to contact them for more information about financial aid. We're going to take another second here to take a look at questions. Let's see. How is the ratio of chaperones per scout? The ratios follow the same ratios that are in activity safety checkpoints. When we have taken girls on trips as GSUSA, when we've hosted destination events, there are always 2 adult chaperones from the council who go on the trip, and we have up to 14 girls. But there are also guides and sometimes drivers. For instance, when we went to Kenya, we had 2 chaperones from the council, we had a guide, and we had 3 drivers. So there are actually 6 adults who were with the girls the majority of the time, and we had 14 girls on that trip. But basically the safety activity checkpoint ratios are what's followed. If you had a specific question about a specific destination and their ratio, you could contact the sponsor of that trip to get more detailed information about how many adults would be on the trip. The other question has to do with the selection process, so I'm going to hold off on that for a second because I talk about that just in a couple minutes. So what's next? You apply. You may apply for up to 4 destinations each year. As I mentioned, the application's the same for all the trips, and the application can be downloaded directly from the trip description page. It's available in PDF and Word forms, and I believe that both of them are interactive, so you actually can type into the application instead of printing off and writing. And as someone who's reviewed a lot of destination applications in the past, it's always better if they're typed because they can be read better. Make sure that the application is filled out completely. And again, you can type your application or print it in black ink. Don't fill out your application in a pencil. Don't fill out your application in a pink pen. Black ink or typed is the way to go with the destinations and filling those out. For our Kenya trip, we had over 50 girls apply to that trip. And applications that were not completely filled out or that could not be read basically automatically went to the bottom of the pile. Not that, you know, we still read them, we still reviewed them. There could have been some girls who still went on the trip, but they're probably going to be the last ones that are looked at because they're not complete and or they can't be read. So make sure that if you do write, that you write so people can read it and write in black ink. Make sure that you and your parents both sign the application. Let's take a quick look at the application and I can show you what I'm talking about here. So this is the application and there are instructions There's the application form, there's an essay, and there's a reference form. You need 2 references. And the references can be the same references for all trips, that's fine. And your application form can be the same for all 4 trips, or however many trips you apply for. Your essay needs to be written specifically for the trip that you're applying for. So if you're applying to 3 different trips, you need to write 3 different essays, and each one needs to be about that specific trip and why you are the best person to go on that specific trip. Again, using black ink, and complete the entire application. If you use extra pieces of paper, make sure that your name and the title of the destination you're applying to is written somewhere on it. Make sure your essays are written on separate pages. Make sure to make a photocopy of your application before you send it in to me. And make sure that both you and your parent and guardian sign the last page. So here's the application. You put the title of the destination you're applying to there, the event sponsor there, and then it's just general information, name, telephone number, email, birthday, your counsel's name, your counsel's address. That's where you put the North Charleston address goes there. I'm the contact person, so my name and my email go there. Then there's some more racial and ethnic breakdown information. Then you put your references information here, so their name, their telephone number, their relationship to you, whether it be a teacher or your Girl Scout leader or your religious leader, your sports coach, and their email there. Make sure that you fill this out. Then there's a couple short answer questions. Then there's the essay. Again, write your essay on a separate sheet of paper. Make sure your name's on that separate sheet of paper. Part 3 is your skills, if you speak any languages, camping, outdoor skills. You'd fill those out. Signature. Here's where it goes. This is where the girl's signature and date goes. And this is where the parent's name and signature and date goes. We're not Girl Scouts overseas, so we don't pay any attention to this information right here. But we do pay attention to 3B. This is where, once you turn in your application packet, I sign off that you are a registered member of Girl Scouts of Eastern South Carolina. And then I send the packet off to the sponsoring council or travel service. So that's the application packet. And then there's the reference forms. Again, make sure to fill all this information out. This is where you'd put the destinations that you're applying to. Again, you can apply to up to 4 destinations. Then this is the information that's filled out by the person doing the reference. So they put their name, how long they've known you, the relationship to you, and then they answer the following questions. And again, you need to have 2 references. So that there is what the application looks like. Again, the essay you write should explain why you're interested in the trip and why you think you are the best person to attend the trip. Your essay should be different for every trip that you apply for. All the trips have different capacity numbers, and it might go, some destinations might only have 10 spots. Some destinations might have 100 spots. but you want to make sure your application shows why you are someone who should participate on the trip. You want your application to rise to the top of the pile and be cream of the crop. As we talked about, 2 references are required for destination trips, and people that you could ask for is, your Girl Scout leader, your teacher, your religious leader, a sports coach. References should not come from family members. We looked at the reference forms just a second ago. Make sure that you fill them out and attach a copy of the trip description to the reference form so the person writing your reference knows what the trip's about that you want to go on. Also, if you're asking them to mail the reference to me, make sure that you give them an addressed, stamped envelope so they don't have to worry about that. The references need to be sent directly to me, which is, there's our address, attention Lesley Robinson. They can also fax them, and they can also scan and email them. All of that is fine. Make sure to give your references enough time to complete the reference form. The deadline for application packets to be turned into me for the first round is November 14th. So that's a month from today that the applications are due. I will keep you updated on the status of your application packet. I'll let you know what I'm missing. I'll let you know when it's complete. I'll let you know when I forward it to the trip sponsors. So I will be the person working with you through the application process as far as making sure that your applications get to where they need to get to by the time they need to get there. So the completed application packet is the application form, the essay, and the 2 references. That's what's needed. I'm going to have to take another break here and find my control panel to see if there's any other questions. Can more than one girl from the same troop be approved to go on the same trip? That is really up to whoever's sponsoring the destination and how they work that. I will say that this year, 2 girls from our council were both accepted to the Midwest Madness trip, and they were both from the same troop. We've taken girls from our council on a trip to Guatemala that were in the same troop. So it's not something that doesn't happen, but it really is all decided by the people hosting the trip, whether or not they accept girls, from the same troop, or even sometimes from the same council. I know that we tend to take lots of girls from Central Texas on the destinations we host, and Central Texas is such a big council that, I could have 5 girls from Central Texas on a trip, but none of them know each other because Central Texas is such a large area. Why are scout leaders and registered parents not allowed on destinations? Because it's an individual girl opportunity. It's just a program for girls. I don't really know if I have another answer besides that. I know that from chaperoning destinations trips and being with a group of girls who are away from their parents and who are away from people that they know, that, you know, they very much flourish during those trips. As our girls mentioned in when they were talking about their destinations, trips are life-changing, to say the least. And I think sometimes maybe if parents and or leaders were involved, that they'd be impacted differently. And another reason why is because leaders and registered adults can participate on troop trips. And, there is that opportunity and that experience that they can participate in. And Destinations is just a different program for individual girls to have that travel experience. So looking back at our timeline, for the first round timeline, there's 2 different rounds of application time frames. And for the first round timeline, as I said, November 14th, 2014 is when the application packets, including the application, essay, and references, are due to the North Charleston Service Center. To my attention, do not send your application packet to the sponsors of the destination. I need to review the applications before you send them off, and I have to sign off on them saying that you are a member of our council. In early December, the trip sponsors receive and review the application packets. So basically, around Thanksgiving time, I will make sure that all of our girls' application packets are sent off to the various trip sponsors. By January 16th, 2015, the girls who apply to destinations will find out about their application status. And they may learn that they are a participant in the trip, which means that they're going. They may find out that they're an alternate for the trip, and that means that if one of the participants drops out, that they may be asked to participate in the trip. Or there is a non-participant, and that might happen as well. When we had 50 girls apply to Kenya, we only had 14 spots. So there were a lot of girls who got that non-participant letter. And, if a girl applies to a horseback riding destination and she's never ridden a horse before, and if it's an advanced destination, she might not be accepted to the destination because she doesn't have the skills that she needs in order to be successful in it. On all of the trips that we've taken, we've always taken alternates. And we normally take all of our trips have 14 spots, and we normally take between, I'd say, 5 and 7 alternates. And that's because since girls can apply to up to 4 different trips, they might get accepted into 4 different trips, and then they have to make their decisions. Now, if they financially could go on all 4 different trips, they can go on all 4 different trips. But normally girls can only afford to go on 1 trip, so then some decisions need to be made. And when the participants drop out, that's when we can offer spots to alternates. Deposits are due to the trip sponsor by February 1st. And if you're accepted into multiple trips, please remember to let all the trip sponsors know of your decisions. So if I was accepted into 4 different trips and I could only go to 1, I would need to make sure to tell those other 3 trip sponsors that I could not attend their trip, so then they could make sure to get some alternates lined up. The deposit money is always put towards the program fee. It is not in addition to the program fee. And deposits can range from $50 to $300. In the program or in the trip description pages, it tells you what the deposit is that's required. So that's for the first round timeline. We also have the second round timeline. And I suggest that if you really want to go on a certain trip, that you apply during the first round, because there's always the possibility that that trip will be full by the time the second round comes around. Because the second round is in February and March. And again, February the 6th is when the application packets need to be turned in to me. By March 6th, that's when you'd receive notification from the trip sponsor of your application status. Deposits are due on March 20th. And then in spring 2015, if you're accepted on a trip, that's when you're going to be receiving additional information about the trip from the trip sponsor, including a packing list, travel details, payment schedule, just more information about the trip. So that is basically our webinar today. I see that there's one more question that came in, which is, how do you become an adult volunteer? If a destination is looking for adult chaperones, it will say so on the page. One that's coming into my mind is the one going into the Grand Canyon. I know that they're looking for adult chaperones, but there is information. It's normally included by the cost section, and it will say if they're looking for adult chaperones. If it doesn't say anything on the page, you can always give the sponsor a call to see if they're looking for people. I can tell you that the destinations that are ran by Alpine Training Services, they employ people full-time. Basically, their jobs are to take kids on trips. So none of those destinations are ever looking for chaperones because they have their chaperones on their staff. And then we got another one. How is homesickness handled? I've taken 6 destination trips with 10 to 14 girls on each of them, and I have never had to deal with homesickness, ever. And you would think that these girls never wanted to go home once they were out on the trip. I've also worked with, 15 to 18-year-olds. That's the age range that our trips have always been for. And at that point in time, most of the girls have already gone on a couple destinations. They might have gone on 1 or 2 trips. So I had gotten them when they were kind of over their homesickness. It tends to be that the schedule is so full that the girls, don't really dwell that much on thinking about home. They're kept busy. They're having so much fun. I know that all the trips I've taken, I've allowed the girls to have their cell phones. At hostels that we've stayed at, there's been, internet connections, and they keep in touch with their families through that way. And that's a lot different than, like, let's say our resident camp experience where, the girls don't have their cell phones. But I've not had to deal with homesickness. Again, that would be something if there was a specific trip that a girl was interested in. Contact that trip sponsor to find out, what their protocols are for dealing with homesickness. If you think that might, affect your girl. So it looks like I've answered all the questions. If I didn't answer the questions thoroughly enough for you, or you have additional questions, please feel free to shoot me an email, and I'd be more than happy to answer those questions. I think travel is really important for our girls, and I love to see girls being interested in travel. And if I know that there's a girl who wants to go on a destination, I will do whatever I can to help make that come true. I know lots of families really get put off by the cost, and rightfully so. A lot of the trips are very expensive, but the girls who go on them, it really is a life-changing event, and very much, worth the money. So if you do have someone interested, please let me know. Get in contact with me so we can get things going. And again, the deadline is the 14th, so we've got about a month. So thank you for attending tonight, and I want to thank our panelists for joining in. I've ran a couple minutes long, so thanks for sticking with me, and thank you so much.